When Michael W. Smith sings Waymaker on Spirit 105.3, he calls our God light in the darkness. And that's exactly who God is. And we are his children. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Angie is the promotions lead here at Spirit 105.3. And recently, she had the opportunity to serve the refugees in Jesus' name on the border of Ukraine and Poland. Angie's family is from Ukraine, and so this was an especially meaningful experience for her. But we're so glad she's home and here with us today. Angie, welcome back to Spirit 105.3.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back, kind of.
I know.
So what was the biggest takeaway that you had from this trip?
Ooh, great question. So one thing I had to do while I was there is navigate between so many different languages that there was a kid at the border and he told me at one point, oh, moja holovaya kasha, which is my head feels like oatmeal, just from the situation of standing there in the cold. And I was like, honestly, same, because just all the different languages. But one thing I told the team at the end, we had a group chat. I said, even though language is a bit of a struggle sometimes, still love. Everyone understands true love, a smile, a hug, physical touch, just holding someone. So honestly, even when there is that barrier, it doesn't matter because people can still see if you're being genuine and they can sense that.
Oh, those barriers are overcomeable, which is a fun word.
Yes.
So Angie, I'm sure you met so many people. Who is one person whose story you'll never forget?
There was a grandma I met while I was going into the Ukrainian side of the border one day, and I heard her speaking really clean Ukrainian to someone else. So my ears perked up, and I turned around, and I was like, I'm about to start a conversation with this grandma because we're waiting in line for a while. And when I hear clean Ukrainian, for me, that's easier to understand. So I turned to her, started talking, and she was so sweet, but she just started telling me so much wisdom. She told me about her grandsons that she had to bury, which was devastating to hear. She was carrying a bag and refused to let me carry it for her. And she's like, this is full of the seeds that I'm going to plant because it's planting season. And then she told me, I am a Christian, and I used to go to church every day to pray before the war started. And she said, you know what? A lot of people, they take for granted the ability to pray. And she's like, some people say they're too tired from work to go and pray. Some people say that they'd rather go shopping than pray. And she said some people would rather make shashlik, which is like shish kebab.
Yum.
than pray. Yes, it's very delicious. I thought that was really funny. But she was so sweet. She just kept going back and forth on the border. She's like, I'm going to stay with my friend today. She was just a sweetheart. And I saw her the next day. And she's all alone. She's so brave. She's the epitome of a brave Ukrainian person, all alone by herself, but not even dealing with grief herself in the war. She was just so positive and smiling and so kind to me.
Oh, incredible.
I know you guys prepared a lot to go on this trip, but what was something that surprised you when you got there?
Ooh. Something that surprised me was that with all the stuff that we brought, balloons were the greatest hit.
Really?
Yes. I would just start handing them out to kids and families in line, and people were so excited for the balloons. And then I'd ask the kids, do you want me to blow this up for you, or do you want to do it yourself? And they'd say, can you blow it up for me? So one of my favorite memories was it was sunset at the border, and we bought packs of balloons. And so it's handing them out, and then I got this huge circle of kids around me, and the sky was pink. It was so beautiful. And I just heard just the roar of laughter of the kids, and we were playing like hot potato with the balloons. And so they're all up in the air, and they're like pink balloons, and the sky's pink. And so the parents just got to stand in line, but the kids could come out and just play with me for a while. And so it was just so precious. And the kids, it's so easy for them to find joy, even in the moments that are really hard on the parents. And so it was a blessing to everyone to hear that laughter.
I can just see that picture you painted with the pink sunset. Wow. Angie, did you ever feel like you were in danger?
No, honestly, I didn't.
Wow.
But there was one time I was sitting in a cafe on the Ukrainian side because there was a little cafe we'd often go to near the border to eat at the end of the day. And and to support that small business. And the food was delicious. But there was one day I went with my Ukrainian friend volunteer, and she's actually is from the same city where my cousins live. And so her and I became really good friends on the trip and could speak to each other. And she went with me to go get some food for the volunteers. And so while we were waiting for the food to be prepared, we were sitting there, and it was the first time I heard the air raid sirens go off. So I was sitting there and I quickly took a video, and it sounded like the purge. It was like the everyone else was calm and no one else was freaking out, and I was just sitting there, and then she's just smiling at me, and she says this in Ukrainian, but she's like, this is my life for an entire month when I was back in the city I'm from. She's like, I would hear this all day, all night. And where she's from and where my family is, it's a safer area, so not as much destruction going on, but still you hear that all day. And I'm like, I can't imagine what that's like, especially for kids to hear that. It's just so chilling and creepy sounding. So, oof, not like that.
Did you ever feel afraid at all?
I did not feel afraid, no. It was really safe where I was at the border. And yeah, the side of the Polish and Ukrainian border, it's not where the heavy bombing is going on. So that's all on the eastern side, which is far, far away. So we were in good hands.
When you were there any words in the Bible that came to life for you in those moments?
Actually, yes. There's something that I kept thinking in my head, was a part in the Bible where, I don't even know where this is referenced, but you'll know what I'm talking about. It was, I think Jesus was saying, anytime you were clothing someone or feeding them, you were doing that for me, the least of those, you're doing it for me. And the question was, well, when did I do that for you? And he says, at that moment. And so I think in those times, what was important to me was, and what my dad told me, and he's a Ukrainian pastor himself, I'm a preacher's kid, he said, Angie, when you go there, make sure that you are caring for the needs immediately, what people need. If there's someone who is cold and shivering, give them something warm. If someone needs medical attention, give that to them first. Or if there's a kid that needs some clothes or food or whatever, just give that to them first. That's going to speak louder than you trying to tell them about the gospel. And I think whatever you do here is what you got to do there. So don't be a different person just because you're in a different country. The mission field is always constantly, and the way that you share the love of Christ is by doing what he would do, and it's caring for the sheep. And then having conversations, listening to people's stories, and then having that open conversation, which was so cool. And I think just the cultural difference is here you got to be really politically correct when you talk to people. You don't have to be that way there. Okay, I should say, yes, you should be sensitive, but there I can just ask people like, hey, are you Christian? It's not weird to ask, and you can be more direct and just upfront, and people don't get offended by that. And if they're not going to be like suddenly not your friend. Like they want to have conversations. And over there, it's all about hospitality and love and caring for people. And that's big in the culture. And so it was just cool that I could have very direct conversations with people. And it was just an open door of communication. I loved it.
Awesome.
How badly do you want to go back?
I want to go back so bad to Ukraine. My family actually was talking about going on a trip next summer, all of us, my siblings and the kids and everything.
Wow.
So I'm hoping somehow, some way, we're going to be able to go back. And I really want to see my cousins in Ukraine, and I want to see the country rebuild, and if I can be a part of that somehow. And I made so many friends, the refugees that I keep in contact with on Facebook and Telegram and Viber. So if I get a chance to see them again, I would be so happy as well.
Oh, Angie, we're pulling for you. We'll be praying for you about that. Thank you for catching the spirit on the border of Poland and Ukraine.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Angie.